this was our standard-based grading thing that we use for our kids. We use that for every kid, every math kid, special ed or regular ed. This is how they received their grade. If they took a pre-assessment, we'll give them their score, and they would actually fill it in. This was a student. They actually kept this, so they knew exactly what. Okay, I got 80% on standard MAD1, and every time we would get that, and they had a rubric at the bottom, so they knew exactly where they were as far as emerging, progressing, and meets. And this is what we use for our special ed kids. This is their Tier 4 progress monitoring sheet that we use. So they have their goal, and we were using an IP meeting, just give it to the parent. The kid, he started at a performance level baseline of 5, and we watched his first update, he's at a 9, and so on. And we used SMART goals, so we knew exactly where, he knew exactly where he was starting and where we were going. And this is what we use school-wide. This is what the principal would kind of monitor the entire school with for our CFAs. And this is what she would bring to our data talks. And the red part was not good, so. But we'll make the CFAs much more difficult than CRCT. So if they got really a 50, that was okay. And this is just one we use for our mock writing test. It's something just another progress monitoring we would use.
The examples that Sam has given there, if you want those are actually located. Sam and his team from Henry Middle School presented at our Best Practices Forum last year. If you go to the Graduate First website, www.graduatefirst.org, and look under Best Practices Forum 2012, you can get Sam's slides there, so you can look at that. Now, we're not saying use this slide with your school or use this form with your school. We're saying this is what one school came up with as they met and conferred and collaborated on what they thought would work for monitoring those students in their classroom.
My question is, did you do a predictive piece with your common formative assessment to see if it is a good indicator whether your students are passing the CRCT or not?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we had our coaches. They would actually get the standards, and they would actually, kind of put it together where it would actually, what we was putting on our CFA was actually correlate exactly what they would see on the CRCT. Yeah. Because everything we would meet in our data room. We'll get to that later when we actually collaborate. Our coaches, they would actually meet, and we would go to when they would actually make the exams.
Okay, I want you to look at the next. If you downloaded your slides, this slide, the next slide are 7 impact strategies, and the next slide all go along with the Hattie's research that you just did when you initially came into the room. In your packet, you will find the answers to that Hattie survey. So if you would pull that out, I'm going to let this slide stay up for a few minutes, and I'm going to scroll it to the next slide and the next slide. These are all research-based information related to what high, medium, and low impact strategies specifically are. And it gives the correlation. So you can see this, and I'm going to move to the next one. This is from Hattie, which your survey was developed from. The 7 medium to high impact strategies, you will see that as you look through Hattie's form there as well.
Look on your handouts, and find the page that says Suggested Steps for Explicit Instruction in Academic Vocabulary. All right, remember we're switching from math to vocabulary. They all are under the broad umbrella of academics. So it depends on what your school shows a weakness in or what you need to work on from your data. On this handout, I want you to read it at your table, and I want you to think about the steps. You have steps 1 through 7. They come to school prepared with the vocabulary? Yes or no? Do they use vocabulary that we probably wish they didn't use? They probably get it. Yeah, they probably get it from television. We were talking about Jersey Shores last night. You know, MTV probably has some things that they watch. I don't even know what they watch anymore. But they have vocabulary that we wish they didn't have. But if we determine that vocabulary engagement is what we want to work on school-wide, remember I said if, that what your data shows, you need to determine the school-wide or grade level list of words. Is it going to be the same for every school? Somebody said, why can't we just get it from the Common Core? Well, what's important to your teachers? Someone in a previous session yesterday talked about that we think kids understand words, and sometimes they don't understand testing words. And a student was asked to draw a conclusion on a test item. They actually drew something. You know, that's what we think everybody would know, especially maybe middle and high school students. They know what draw a conclusion means. Do they all know? And we're testing them for something that they don't even have the vocabulary sufficient enough. We've used things to make vocabulary engagement fun. In your packet, you'll see some Freyer models. You'll see four-fold method.
I do want to share about that four-fold, though. You just fold paper so that you have 4 squares across, and 16 squares is what you end up with on your paper, four-fold, when you fold it 4 times. And across the top, you might have definition, a non-linguistic representation, a sentence with the word left out, and then a pictorial representation of a word. Students do 4 words on a sheet, and I've seen it in classes where they then cut those up and swap them out, and they put it back together. So engagement is the key, getting them engaged in making meaning of those words themselves.
We hope that students will practice the strategy enough to become familiar with the strategy. Then they can work on the actual vocabulary words themselves, and they don't worry about the strategy. It comes natural to them. Of course, that's what we hope for. All right, Sam's going to talk about Henry Middle again.
Like I said, our issue was math. And what we did, we came up with an intervention. So we felt like our kids, if we didn't do something else, what we were doing is, although we were doing a lot, we felt we still needed something else to kind of help bridge that gap with those basic skills. So we paid for a prescription to Alex, which is our CAI computer assisted instruction that we use, and we started a lab, and we had at first we did it doing EOT. They would come in like 35 minutes doing EOT. By the time, you know, they SWD kids, so by the time they get logged in, get settled in, those 35 minutes, they actually end up getting about 20 minutes of instruction. So that year, our scores stayed about the same. We were still under 40, so we didn't get much support with that. And then after that year, I had a conversation with my principal about doing something different. And we ended up having, we said we need to the kids need more time. So we ended up making a full connection class where they would actually go in doing connection every other day for an hour and 30 minutes. And with that, we had a certified teacher, and we had a pair that would come in and kind of rotate. It was a resource class, and we had about 15 students in there. And that teacher would actually do mini lessons. That's when the kids would do the mini lessons. Alex, they were able to pull off, see what skills they were ready to learn at that time, and she would actually have the groups with them. She would do about 3 or 4 groups a day, working on using manipulatives and CRA. That's a picture of our lab that we used, and this is how they were able to look at the monitor what the kids were learning, and how they were able to see how much growth we were getting with the kids. Yeah, research shows you can't just put them in there and just sit for an hour and 30 minutes doing the computer. That's not, you're wasting your time. You have to do the mini lessons. You have to do all the other stuff. And so actually, our kids actually they went to a regular math class. They got Alex, and they got their Tier 4 progress monitoring where they worked on their goals, and they got mini lessons. So our kids, they got a lot of math, and they needed that.